over. The knife broke clean in half. I threw the broken plastic blade and carried on frenzied with the handle. You bastard! You bastard! The knife handle slipped and cut my finger. I threw it, punching Clive instead into a little mess of clay. Nigel was holding me. I was on fire. Adrenaline swept through my body in volcanic waves. I never took my eyes off Clive. I swung again and again. I brushed Nigel off and I collapsed into a heap on the floor. Why? Why? I screamed to the ceiling. Nigel was on all fours facing me. It's okay, let it out. Bastard! Bastard! I said, calming my voice, but not my body, as I continued to pound the empty floor. Tired, I looked at Nigel. Let me guess. You don't want to see me anymore. Whoa, he tried to speak. It's okay, I said, I wouldn't either. You want to know what I want to do? You want to know how I feel? I stood up, pulled Clive into a ball. It's okay to be angry in here, Nigel said. Angry? I said. I was totally calm. I stepped back, seeing Clive's face in the ball, and took up an Aikido stance. I'll fucking kill him. Stepping forward, I chopped the ball, sending it splattering in all directions and hurting my hand a lot. As quickly as I was as angry, as quickly as I became calm, I turned to Nigel. I'm sorry, you don't need this. I have to go. I was totally relaxed. I'll see you next week, he said, smiling. Yeah? Right, I replied. I will, he said, opening the door for me. Oh, before you go, remember, you don't have to talk to anyone about anything you don't want to. He put his hand on my shoulder, and it felt good. We walked to Brenda. How did it go? She asked. I looked at Nigel. He was doing great. He'll tell you if he wants to, he said, and walked off. He just turned on his heel and walked away. Nobody treated Brenda like that. In the car, Brenda repeatedly asked how it went. I ignored her. In my head, I was in my own room with Nigel. When she pulled up, she said, I'm not sure you should go to Scouts if you won't talk to me, Tracy. I smiled. I ain't telling you shit, I responded. Chapter 29. Seeing Nigel became a nice break from the chores of home and school. Boxing was on and off when I could get the chance, and my paper round was going well. The lady at the shop usually bung me a pack of crisps or a Whisper bar when I dropped in to say I'd completed the round. She was friendly, and I liked her. She also didn't bat an eyelid when I bought my smokes from them, and said they were for a friend. Louise had started helping me in maths, and I helped her with English. Louise knew I was self-harming, but she didn't know to what extent. She'd seen me etch marks into my arm with a compass, but not seen the cuts I had made with the ruler. She was prodding me beneath the table in maths lesson with a pen, whenever the teacher turned around, and we were generally having a laugh. She'd do the maths and I'd copy her work as she explained it to me. I didn't understand anything Mrs. Lorne was saying. I grabbed Louise's wrist as she came at me again with the pen. She grabbed my forearm with her other hand, and I flinched away as pain shot up my arm. What is it? She asked, genuinely concerned. Nothing, I said, pulling my seat in further, moving my arm away from her. Not your fault, don't worry about it, I added, trying to pay attention to Miss Lorne, a mid-40s lady with curly hair and big thick glasses. Well, Tracy, you seem talkative today. What's the answer? She said, turning to face me. I was relieved Louise wouldn't know about my arm, because she'd give me a right roasting, but I was horrified to be the centre of attention. My mind jumped to being against the wall at Wendell's, and then being stood in front of the table at Brenda's reciting sums, and I turned red with embarrassment. Don't know, I said quietly. What do you think it could be? She asked, not letting up. I don't know, I said louder. But what do you think it is? She tried again. I think you should fuck off. I don't know, I shouted. Outside, she shouted back, pointing a long ruler towards the door. She expected me to wait outside for a roasting. I was through giving people what they wanted. I walked down the hall, down the stairs, and right up to reception, where I turned left and walked out the front entrance. I headed to the fields, where I was both alone and free. On another occasion, it was a science teacher who caught the wrath of my tongue. I was chatting with my friend Lee when the teacher interrupted. Tracy, I suggest you quieten down. He singled me out from others talking together, and I wasn't backing down. I had it in my head if I backed down to one person, everyone else would see it as weakness, and they'd decide to have a go. If I was seen as a pushover for just a second, then I'd be hurt by others. I couldn't have that, and to add to it, I felt everyone was trying to parent me because I didn't have parents. I didn't make the connection, they were just doing the normal teacher thing. They were having a go at me because I didn't have parents to stand up for me, or they were sympathising because I didn't have parents. Either way, it amounted to the same thing. I was different than everyone else. I deserved to be treated like this. I was sick of it. "I suggest you kiss my arse," I replied, looking at my friend, who promptly put his head in a book to cover the laughter. "What did you say?" Mr. Jack Lowe said. A taller man with light brown hair and a small spot that always was white on his head. "I suggest you kiss my arse," I responded. "Get out," he told me, not taking his eyes from mine as I slowly walked out of the room. I returned the glare. He came out about 5 minutes later. "Right, you," he said, stepping closer and pointing his finger in my face. "This is my lesson, and if you think I didn't hear the rest." I was watching his finger get closer and closer as his words sped up. He was getting angry, and he only just had control. I had to think fast. If I eyeballed him or ran, I'd be hit. I was certain. I didn't know what the answer was here, so I did what I felt was right as I concentrated on this finger getting closer and closer to my eyes. "Do it," I said calmly and flatly as I could, and looked up into his eyes, so I couldn't care less. I wasn't looking for confrontation. My body language said, "I don't care. If you're going to hit me, do it," I repeated. That's when the furnace started to build inside me, the familiar shake of adrenaline and fear, the flight or fight kicking in. "I'm a teacher at this school," he began, still with a raised and fast voice. He stepped back slightly. I ignored him and walked off. He didn't follow me. My temper was getting worse. I felt if I got hit, at least it took my mind off what was happening in my head. Someone simply asked me if I wanted a coffee. It was my duty to have already made them one, or that I wouldn't be allowed, so there was no point in asking, and they were just taunting me as Wenzel had done. One of his games was to take a tune sweep from his pocket and ask if I wanted a tune. When he said yes, he'd reply, "Tra-la-la-la-la." If I said no, he'd reply, "Good, you weren't getting one anyway." I trusted nobody. I was in the playground or concrete football pitch playing football with Cap, Keel, Graham and a couple of other lads when the tiny girl ran over to Cap holding her face and crying her eyes out. She was thin with long brown hair all messed up. She was red-faced from crying. Keel held her closely. "Keel's sister," Cap said, reading my thoughts next to me. "Who did this?" Keel asked. I could see his body tense where he tried to remain calm for her. She moved her hands to show us her nose was bleeding. I approached Keel in tow as Keel's face turned red with anger, making his ginger hair stand out even more. I'd never seen him angry. "Stuart kicked a ball in her face," he said, looking out over her head as he stroked her hair. "Accident?" I asked her, leaning down. "No," she said, shaking her head and sobbing. "I'll do him," Cap shouted, stepping forwards and moving the girl to one side. "No," I said evenly, placing my hand on his chest. "What?" he said, confused, thinking I was protecting Stuart. "I'll do him. You have family. You're on your last warning here," I said, gesturing towards the school building. "Next time you get expelled, you know that. You're needed here," I added, nodding to the girl. "No, mate, she's my sis," he began. "Listen, you need a fucking job to take care of that sister in your family." "I won't. I don't have family." "I'll do him," I said strongly. "I don't have family," I said solemnly, not looking at him. Keel looked at me like a brother for about 3 seconds. "Where?" I asked the girl before Keel could speak. I'd later found out her name was Christine. "Field behind economics class," she told me, wiping her nose as Keel was holding her head back to stop the bleeding. Louise's cousin was playing football with Stuart and Graham. I ignored Stuart watching us. I was just here to play football. I approached James, Louise's cousin, a medium-built lad who I liked. He was quiet, kept himself to himself. "Hey mate, what happened with Stuart?" He told me Christine had asked if she could play, and Stuart had told her, "Here, you want to play, play with this." Then he kicked the ball into her face. James mimed the action to me. It was no accident. "Thanks, mate. I know you're Stuart's friend and all that. I like you, but I'm dropping him. Don't get involved, yeah?" I didn't wait for an answer. He'd try and talk me out of it out of respect for Louise. I'd not want to drop James. To be fair, I did hear her, "No problem, mate," as I walked away. "Graham," I shouted up the other end of the pitch. "Here, mate." I walked over all confident. I hoped he wasn't going to get in the way. He'd be a major problem if he decided I shouldn't do this. But something about his overconfident walk told me he wasn't getting involved. He didn't want trouble, but he was preparing himself for it if it came. "I'm dropping Stuart. Let me play for 5 minutes. Make sure he gets the ball," I told him. I made it sound as much like a question as I could. Okay, he said, nodding to two guys and telling them I'm on their team. What's he doing? I heard Keel say to Cap as I walked over. Sorting shit out. Watch, Cap said. Cap knew me pretty well. If I said I was going to do something, I did it, whether it was smart or not. The ball came to me and I sent it on to James, who sent it on to Graham. He booted up the pitch and nobody moved apart from Stuart. I ran up behind him and punched him in the side of the head, and he turned with the ball. He didn't see it coming, but immediately curled up. On the way down, I jumped and brought my foot down hard on the back of his calf. He fell, covering his face and curling up into a tight ball, but then sat up, protecting his face. I hooked him maybe 4 to 5 times, trying to break his guard down before he just fell and brought his knees up into a ball. I landed a boot to the curled up Stuart and bent down, throwing punches. I hated ground fighting. I wasn't trained it and hated more that he'd not fought back, jab, jab, cross, opening his guard and catching him on the chin. What's your name? I shouted, stepping back into the gathering crowd and looking at the young girl whose name I'd forgotten in the adrenaline-fueled moment. Christine, Keel answered for her. I went over, took her arm and pulled her over with me, and grabbed Stuart by the shirt. You so much as look at that girl and I'll kill you. You understand? As I grabbed Christine's arm, I'd seen teachers approaching. Fuck it. Well, I said, throwing a jab and a cross into his arms to get the message across. I want an answer. Yeah, sorry, he said. I walked off, giving Graham a thank you nod as I left. That should have been me, Keel said beside me. Don't be stupid. You get that carpenter job you want, I replied. Why did you do that? He asked me. Because the shit was the other way round. You'd have done it for me, I told him. Which was true. I knew you would, and he knew about my father killing my mother. However, I couldn't tell him the truth, it'd be too weird. Cap and Keel were family. They were people I could trust, people I could rely on. I'd never had that before. Besides, I might have told them directly about my past, but I felt everyone knew anyway. It's a small town. I doubt little Jim and Caroline would keep their mouths closed for long, so fuck it, everyone must know. I don't care if they didn't think I was crazy before. They do now. I'd finished my paper round and was on the rob at the local newsagent's. I'd picked up a packet of Polos and 2 packets of fruit pastels. As I walked towards the till, I shoved the fruit pastels up my wrist into the rubber band I had there. I placed the Polos on the counter. Just these, mate, I said. And the fruit pastels, the big fella answered, nodding to the CCTV camera I'd not spotted. What? I asked. Empty your pockets, he said. Fuck you, keep the Polos, I replied, heading for the door. He stopped me just as I reached the pavement by grabbing my arm. Get the fuck, I'd started, as I noticed Paula watching me from outside the shop. She was stationary, just twiddling something in her fingers. She shook her head slowly. I felt so ashamed of myself. I'd upset her, and I hoped I could make it up. I took the pastels from my pocket. Sorry I stole them, I told the man. Don't come back, he said, leaving me facing Paula in the street. Her hair was down either side of her face like a waterfall circling the sun. She had tight jeans on her football top. If you needed money, I'd have given it to you, she told me innocently, searching my face for why I'd be thieving. I mean, it must be because I was hungry, right? I could see myself through her eyes and I didn't look good to her. I'm not hungry, I said, telling her the truth. It became so important to tell her the truth in that moment. Maybe she'd understand. Maybe she'd change me, accept me, or still be a friend. I fumbled for words that should have said, hey, I was just stupid. I need a distraction from the shit I feel inside. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. What I actually said was, I don't know why I... And then I was cut off by the silence of her turning around and walking away. I felt awful. Why did I only realise how much people meant to me when I'd hurt them, or when they left? Why did I not see she cared before? That's right, walk away. Everybody else has. Chapter 30. I was grounded. I wasn't allowed out to play or to go to scouts. Brenda found issue with everything I did. I don't even know why I was grounded. Maybe it was when we went on holiday and I brought Big Jim, who happens to be Welsh, an ornamental sheep, and I told him that there was a hole in the back, so you can, hang it up. With a smile, or the time I told him to fuck off. Perhaps it was because Nigel had promised to meet me for a blood test to decide who my dad was. But when I got there, Brenda wouldn't let me go and get Nigel. Instead, she held me down whilst I had the needle, and told me Nigel didn't care enough about me to turn up. So I called her a bitch. Who knows? Could have been anything. But I was grounded, and so I read.